When you hear the name Warren Buffett, you probably picture a billionaire buying up huge chunks of Apple and Coca-Cola. But what if I told you that trying to invest like that Buffett is the fastest way to lose money? Becoming the legend we know today wasn't a single event, it was a 4-stage process. And the key to his entire empire is hidden in a strategy he used when he had almost nothing. We're about to break it all down stage by stage. Most people just see the Oracle of Omaha, the finished product. They see the man who runs a company worth nearly $1 trillion and moves markets with a single sentence. But that's like staring at the top of a mountain and pretending the climb doesn't matter. His journey wasn't about luck or just being a genius. It was a methodical, surprisingly simple process that unfolded over a lifetime, a process that any of us can learn from. So, we're going to rewind the clock and reveal the 4 distinct stages that turned Warren Buffett from a kid selling chewing gum door to door into the greatest investor of all time. And trust me, the most important stage isn't the one you think. Stage 1, the young entrepreneur's the foundation. Long before he was the Oracle, Warren Buffett was a relentless young hustler in Omaha, Nebraska. His empire wasn't built on some complex algorithm or a lucky stock pick, it was forged by getting his hands dirty. This wasn't just a childhood phase, it was the blueprint for everything that came next. It all started small. At just 6 years old, he'd buy 6 packs of Coke from his grandfather's store for 25 cents and sell each bottle for a nickel, making a 5-cent profit on every pack. He delivered newspapers, sold used golf balls, and even started a pinball machine business as a teenager. These weren't just odd jobs, they were real businesses that taught him about profit margins, customer service, and the simple, powerful value of a dollar earned. While other kids were spending their money, Buffett was saving and investing it. At just 11 years old, he made his first stock market investment, buying 3 shares of Citi's Service Preferred for himself and 3 for his sister. He watched in a panic as the stock dipped, but he held on with a patience well beyond his years, eventually selling for a small profit. It was a powerful first lesson in taming the emotions that wreck most investors. By the time he was a teenager, he had already used verse 200 of his savings to buy a 40-acre farm, which he then leased out to a local farmer. Think about that. While most of us were just trying to get through high school, a teenage Warren Buffett was already a business owner and a landlord. This period wasn't about making millions. It was about building the bedrock of his financial philosophy. He learned on a gut level that an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. Whether it's a pinball machine, a newspaper route, or a piece of farmland. This was the foundation. He wasn't just learning how to make money, he was learning how money works. He was building the discipline, patience, and obsession with value that would become his trademark, and these small hustles were the perfect training ground for what came next. Stage 2, the secret partnership, the accelerator. This next stage is the one most people skip over, but it's arguably the most critical. Before Berkshire Hathaway was a household name, there was the Buffett partnership, LUDed. Think of this as Buffett's secret lab and his personal wealth accelerator. It's where he went from being a smart investor to a true financial force. After studying under his mentor, the father of value investing Benjamin Graham, Buffett returned to Omaha in 1956. He did something deceptively simply. He asked his family and friends to trust him with their money. He started his first partnership with just over 100 Zalosen from a handful of investors. He set up a brilliant fee structure. He didn't charge any management fees and only took a cut of the profits after he made his partners a 6% return. His success was literally their success. For the next 13 years, working from a modest home office, Buffett absolutely demolished the market. Between 1957 and 1969, the partnership earned a staggering 29.5% average annual return, while the Dow only managed 7.4%. He turned that initial 100 Zalosen into a fortune, creating the seed capital that would fund his entire empire. How did he do it? He wasn't buying famous, blue-chip stocks. He was digging through the obscure, forgotten corners of the market, hunting for what he called generals, tiny, undervalued companies that Wall Street completely ignored. He famously said he could guarantee 50% annual returns on $1 million because with smaller sums of money, you can find these little anomalies that are way off the map. This was Buffett in his purest form, a hungry, relentless value hunter. He wasn't just trading stocks, he was analyzing businesses from the ground up, just like he did with his newspaper routes. This period proved his system worked. It built his track record, his confidence, and his capital base. The partnerships were the engine that turned his early lessons into his first fortune and set the stage for the single biggest mindset shift of his life. If you're getting value from this breakdown of Buffett's early days, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. We're about to get into the one idea that changed everything for him, and you won't want to miss it. Stage 31: Powerful Philosophy, the Engine. By the late 1960s, Buffett was a millionaire with an untouchable track record, but he was still playing by the rules of his mentor, Ben Graham. Graham's method was what Buffett famously called cigar butt investing. You walk down the street, find a soggy, discarded cigar butt with one free puff left in it. You pick it up, take the puff and toss it. It's gross, but it's free. In investing, this meant buying mediocre companies at a statistically dirt cheap price. It worked, but it was exhausting. He was constantly searching for the next discarded butt, buying an okay business at a wonderful price. That was all about to change thanks to one man, Charlie Munger. Munger, Buffett's longtime partner, completely flipped his thinking. Munger argued that the cigar butt approach could never scale. He's the one who convinced Buffett that it's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. This was a lightning bolt for Buffett. It shifted his focus from just looking at a cheap balance sheet to analyzing the quality and long-term durability of the business itself. The philosophy changed from buying cheapness to buying greatness. Munger taught Buffett to hunt for businesses with a moat, a durable competitive advantage that protects them from rivals, just like a moat protects a castle. This could be a powerful brand, a low-cost advantage, or a fanatically loyal customer base. The perfect test for this new philosophy came in 1972 with the purchase of See's Candies. On paper, See's was not a Graham-style bargain. Buffett paid $25 million, 3 times its book value, a price that would have made the younger Buffett run for the hills. But he and Munger saw something Wall Street missed: an incredible brand with intense customer loyalty and pricing power. See's could raise its prices every year without losing business, generating a gusher of cash that required almost no new investment. See's Candies became Buffett's ideal business. That initial $25 million investment has since generated over $2 billion in pre-tax earnings for Berkshire. But more importantly, it taught him a priceless lesson. It was the birth of his new engine: stop hunting for cigar butts and start buying economic castles. Stage 4: The Legendary Deals, the Empire. With a powerful new philosophy and the fortune from his partnership days, Buffett was ready for his final act: scaling up. To do this, he needed 2 things: a vehicle to drive and a massive, continuous source of fuel. He found both in the most unlikely of places. The vehicle was Berkshire Hathaway, a failing textile mill in New England that Buffett had started buying in the 1960s as a classic cigar butt investment. The business itself was doomed, but Buffett didn't care about the textile machines. He cared about the company's cash. He took control in 1965 and slowly transformed it into a holding company for his real passion: investing. The fuel was the masterstroke of his career insurance float. In 1967, Berkshire bought its first insurance companies. Buffett had a huge realization: insurance companies collect premiums from customers up front and only pay out claims much later. This giant pool of money they hold in the meantime is called float. It's basically a massive, interest-free loan from all the policyholders, and if you run the business well, that loan costs you nothing. This gave Buffett a gigantic, ever-growing river of free money to invest. While other investors had to find new capital, Buffett had billions of dollars in float from companies like GEO that he could pour into his best ideas. This was the unfair advantage that allowed him to build an empire. With this float-fueled engine, he started making the legendary deals that define his legacy. He bought a massive stake in American Express in the 1960s during the Salad oil scandal, when the market was panicking, because his own research showed him the brand was stronger than the fear. In 1988, he poured over $1 billion into Coca-Cola, a global brand with an untouchable moat that Wall Street had temporarily sawed on, and in a move that showed he could still adapt, Berkshire started buying Apple in 2016. Buffett saw Apple not as a tech company, but as a consumer products company with an unbelievably sticky ecosystem, a 21st century castle with the widest moat he'd ever seen. These weren't just stock picks. They were huge, concentrated bets on wonderful businesses, bought with the low-cost fuel of insurance float, and held for the long run. So, what's the real secret to Buffett's empire? It's not one thing. It's the process. It's the 4-stage rocket he built over an entire lifetime. Stage 1 was the foundation. As a kid, he learned the fundamental laws of money, save, hustle, and understand what an asset truly is. Stage 2 was the accelerator. In his partnerships, he proved his system worked, quietly compounding a small pool of money into a fortune while the rest of the world wasn't watching. Stage 3 was the engine. With Charlie Munger's help, he evolved his thinking from buying cheap to buying great, focusing on economic castles with unbreakable moats. And stage 4 was the empire. He used the brilliant structure of Berkshire Hathaway and the incredible fuel of insurance float to buy those great businesses at a massive scale. If you want to dive deeper into how Buffett analyzes companies, check out our video on breaking down Warren Buffett's investment strategy right here. Thanks for watching.